So today I'm going to show you these little polymer cherry pie hearts that I'm making. So first I'm going to take some transparent clay. I'm going to add a little bit of chalk pastel, a little beige, a little brown, come up with a relatively decent crust color. Sort of have to play around with your colors, see what you like, and just really mix it well. Now I've done two different versions of this in this video. One where I've used the liquid polymer, the liquid Sculpey, and then the other where I've used resin instead to be the gooey, yummy part of the cherry pie. So I'm going to show you both so you can sort of see the difference. So here I'm just rolling out the polymer. Trying to get it as even as I can. I have this little heart cutter, which is what I'm using to make the base. Obviously these are for Valentine's Day. I'm just going to cut the side of the little tart. Stretch it out a little bit. And then just wrap it around. Now I obviously didn't cut quite enough, so I'm going to have to patch this together a little bit. Stretch it a little. And now blending the bottom. Little surgery here. Obviously, if I had measured it correctly, this would have been a lot easier. But this was my first try at this. So I'm just blending. I find the transparent Sculpey pretty soft usually, so for blending it's easier. But it is also softer, so there are ups and downs to that. There we go. That's looking good. Just really blend it nicely. So this is actually a tool to push your cuticle, oddly enough, but it seems to work really well to create the sort of fluted pie edges. So I'm just pushing against my finger and creating these edges. This will take a bit of time. also use the X-Acto blade for your polymer, the side of it, not the sharp side, obviously. So here I am putting a base of liquid Sculpey that I had mixed with some red chalk pastel. I pre-mix it and I just have it in a container ready to go. And now I'm taking an assortment of reds, dark reds, bright reds, and softening them up. I'm also going to take a piece of black and mix a little red chalk into it as well to make it more like a black cherry color, to sort of layer and stack. Also a little bit of transparent will give you a nice blend. I'm just going to layer it into each other. There's that cherry blacky color I'm making. As you can see, I'm just sort of haphazardly layering it in and then sort of twisting. I'm just going to make a long little snake out of it, and then I'm going to cut little bits and roll just tiny little red balls, basically. And plop. And they can be slightly different sizes. I mean, the more irregularity you have, the more texture you give the little pie. It'll give you a little bit more of a real effect. So here I am, all layered in. I'm just taking a little bit of brown on a brush to give it more of like a baked crust vibe. It sort of came out a little bit more chocolate cherry tort vibe. And again, this is the one with the liquid Sculpey. Very cute, right? Look at the crust. Very realistic. I just sort of gave it a good brush on the back before I popped it in. I got one of these little handheld drill tools to give this a go. To make it into a little charm. Which I'll show you I totally struggled with, because evidently I don't know how to tighten it properly. It's always fun using new tools on camera and swearing to yourself after. Why did I do this? Anyway, it gave me a little workout there. I'm sure there's a way to lock it better than I did. But it did work in the long run. Yay! All right. And evidently there's other bits that I didn't know that were in the back end. So I'm assuming that that's why mine didn't work that round. Anyway, I'm just going to mix up a little bit of resin, UV resin, with a little bit of red chalk again, and put a little top coat. Give it a real glazy, happy look. So just use your X-Acto knife and scrape off some chalk. Also going to add a drop of the ink color for the resin. This is a ruby red. And actually this combination of chalk and the liquid colors works really well. I found later on with my second round of cherry pies that I was making. It gives like a real sort of goopy, out of the oven cherry pie coloring. You don't see it as well because it's over the liquid polymer on this one, but on the next one you'll really see the loveliness of it. And we're just going to set it under the UV lamp when I'm done. Look how pretty and shiny that is though. There we go. Just a little tiny bit on the crust, like it bubbled up a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to try the second technique, where we're just going to use the UV resin at the end, instead of starting off with a base of liquid polymer. So basically it's all the same technique again. We're just going to cut a heart out. And the side portion, again, stretch it a little bit. The polymer is really soft today, I guess. It's hot in my house. So we're just going to wrap it around like we did on the last one. Use the center of the heart as like a good place to attach and trim. All right. Again, we're going to blend the bottom, smooth that out nicely. Just very light touch. I'm using my little rolling pin as a way to support it a bit because it really is very malleable at the moment. So just continue blending until you're happy with the way it looks. Using my little silicone brush to get into the crevice there, give it a little bit of a crisper edge, tied it up a bit. So again, using whatever tool you like, you can angle it and create the fluted edge. So just continue to flute it with whatever tool you're comfortable using. Just tied up the edges a bit too. You can see I'm trying all the different tools at the same time. It also depends on how soft the clay is. I mean, some things work better on the firmer clay, some work better on the softer clay, obviously. So here you go, you can see it pretty clearly here. And then just scoring it at this point, and then trying to even it out as I go around. Just clean it up a little. There we go. Now you can add a little bit more texture around the rim as well if you really want it to look really fluted, which I'm doing on this one. But you can also choose not to do any of the texture, and it still looks terrific. Right, now we've got a nice little shell. So I'm going to do the same thing like I did before with like the little balls, where I'm doing the different shades of red, some black, some darker colors, some transparent. I'm just going to layer all the different colors on top of each other, truly as haphazardly as possible. Blend, not super blend, just blend. Making another snake, and then we're just going to make little tiny balls again. And we're just going to plop them in the pie shell basically at this point. And just sort of stick to a general size. They don't have to be all the same, but try to. And I'm also doing a few different mixes of reds so that there's more natural variation in the cherry look. As you can see, I'm just cutting up a bunch of them and popping them in. We'll organize it a bit better once we have enough cherries for it, obviously. So just going to keep going with that. I'm going to gently stick them down where I want them, and just very, very gently so you don't deform the circles at all. And it's just going to go in the oven. So this is baked. I'm taking some more of that red chalk, some UV resin, and some UV dye as well in ruby. Resin pigment. And if you take a look at the cherry pie at the moment, you can see the cherries have different colors going on, which is what you really want. Alright, let's mix this up. You see that really glowy color? It's because you're using a transparent and an opaque. And we're just going to spoon it on top. And as long as you give it a minute or two to settle as you're doing it, it will actually coat everything really well. So you really do get the texture of the little cherries that you've made. I'm just filling in the voids there. So I didn't mix enough. So I'm just going to make a little bit more because I really want it filled up nicely. Just continue to fill until you're happy with how it looks. May take a little bit longer than you think, but just play around with it, making sure that you keep that nice texture. And just set the UV resin, and voila. Doesn't it look wet and cherry pie out of the oven? So here are a few more samples of what I made. These are going to be for little earring charms. And I'm making a bow. So you'll see a few pictures of the bow being created here. So I just cut a rectangle, folded it over and pinched it. And it's going to be for a cat. later on, but I'm going to show you on a teddy bear. And here are the little earrings. They're just resin coated. I put the back on with resin as well. Cherry pie heart earrings. And here's the bow completed on a little red collar. And here it is on my teddy bear. Hope you enjoyed. Happy Valentine's Day.